Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So right off the bat, I put everybody on mute when you come into the room. So that's kind of the default setting for entering any of these classes is you come in on mute. So if you want to say something, that's fine. Just take your mute off, but understand that because you have it on mute. Uh-oh, I just got a message that my internet connection is unstable. So we'll see how this goes. All right, a few more people logging in here. Who's never used Zoom? Let me see a hand. Never used Zoom. All right, good. There's a few of you. All right. If you take your cursor and you go down to the bottom of your screen, options pop up. And there's a little thing, a window down there that says chat. And you should click on that. And that's going to open a chat window on the right-hand side of your video screen. Also, if you up in the upper left-hand, right-hand corner, there's the view, so you can see either everybody in a long line, but if you click on gallery view, you can see everybody at once. All right, I see eyes going around. Everybody's navigating around the screen. That's good. So another thing about Zoom before we get it going is that if you're not talking, if you're not asking questions, try to keep your microphone off, because sometimes people will get up and they'll walk away and they'll go do something in the kitchen, and your microphone on your computer sometimes is very sensitive and it's loud for everybody else. And you just be aware that your computers sometimes are very sensitive and will pick up all kinds of ambient noise. All right. How many do we have here? We have 12. Wow. We have 14 people here, including me. That's good. So who's ready? Who's ready? Nobody's ready. Okay. Good. Thanks, Sky. So this has been a fun week. Well, first off, welcome to Meats and Sauces. I'm looking around the room here, and I think I've had everybody here in class before. Isn't that true? Hi, Abby. Abby's coming in. Alyssa's coming in. Alyssa's already here. Wait a minute. My computer's doing weird things. Sorry, Alyssa. You are here, but it's telling me you're entering the room as well. So anyway, been an interesting week. So welcome to Meats and Sauces. I'm Chef Jim. I've had all of you guys before. So I'm going to skip the my bio, which is what I usually do first, and talk about Zoom. So everybody seems to be connected to Zoom. Who's using their phone for Zoom? Okay, just key in. All right, that's good. So it works pretty good. You can type in the window there if you, and I see that, the text messages. So we can share files through Zoom. So if I had a recipe or something that I didn't have up on Canvas yet and I wanted to give it to you, I can attach that file in the chat window there on the right-hand side and send it to everybody. A couple of peculiarities about this particular program when it comes to running class is that I'm going to be screen sharing. So I have stuff set up on my computer screen already. I'm going to be showing you, and my PowerPoints is really one of them. But when I screen share on my end, I lose the ability to see the chat. I can't see it anymore. I have a small window and I can see 3 or 4 of you, but I see screen share. So if you have a question while I'm screen sharing, I put up a slide and you have a question about a particular slide, please kind of just sing out and I'll pause for a minute and you can ask your question. Otherwise, you can, if I'm not screen sharing, you can just type it into the chat window and I'll notice it there and I'll stop and we'll do that. So everybody's found the chat window, right? There it is. So it just sent something to everybody. So, all right, so how about Canvas? Who's having a problem with Canvas? No? Good. I've been working hard on Canvas. Again, if you've had me in class before, you know that sometimes I struggle a little bit with Canvas a little bit, but yeah, a lot. So I've been getting good instruction. I've been getting much better with Canvas. And if you're having problems with Canvas, please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly and email me. I'll be happy to work with you. Canvas has actually been very good with their support, and I can hopefully get you some answers pretty quick. All right. So YouTube, the assessments for this class, I'm going to be asking you to document what you're doing very clearly. So that can either be by pictures, or my preference is that you shoot a short video and you upload it to YouTube, and then you can link it into Canvas. It's really just a, you know, you go to YouTube and you hit the share button, pops a link, and you just literally will paste that into Canvas, and it automatically embeds into Canvas. YouTube and Canvas work together very well. I haven't had any problems with that at all. So all the videos that you've seen, I shot on my iPhone, every one of them. The very first one I did, I haven't even finished yet because it's still on the camera, and I used a really nice Canon handheld camera, you know, almost like a professional camera. I couldn't make it work. It's so much easier on the phone because I can take it, I can edit it on the phone, I can upload it from the phone, I can get all my confirmations from the phone. It's so much easier, so much simpler just to do it on your phone. I'm lucky I have somebody here who can help me when I need it. My wife is here and she can help me do some shots. I've also figured out some unique ways to have the camera holding steady while I do some demos. But I'm not expecting you guys to go to those kinds of lengths. I really just want, you know, think of them as some really good Instagram pictures or something like that. I want you to document what you are doing. In that documentation, in those pictures, in that video, I want to see you. I want to see you in your chef's coats. I want to see you with an apron. I want to see you practicing good hygiene, no rings on your fingers, exactly as if we were in class. That's what I'm looking for. I've found over the last week, as I've been working all this on all these things, when I get up in the morning and it's just like I'm going to class, I get up, I take my shower, I change my clothes, I change into my work clothes. Now mentally, I'm in class. And it's like all those habits, they all fall into place. I feel odd without a hat on. School uniform and wearing your school uniform, it's a mindset, and it really does help you kind of focus. And you really feel like, okay, so I'm in class now, so I have to have my mise en place list and get my things ready to go. All right. So yes, uniforms, I really want to see you guys working in your uniforms. I have been, and yes, I'm wearing my uniform pants as well. So, excuse me. And then the other thing I want to talk about a little bit before we start class is the pickup this afternoon. So this really has to go smooth, and I really need to impress upon you guys how much you need to follow that schedule and try your best to be there at that time. I was there today, and one person who's putting together all the food kits and equipment kits for 4 classes. And it's a monumental task. And we have a few people there helping her today. However, You guys have 8 minutes. That's the windows, 8 minutes to get in there, open the trunk, call Kelly. Kelly will bring your stuff outside. Kelly will go back inside. And it's at that point, it's safe for you to get out of your vehicle and go pick up your stuff and put it in your car. So please be ready and please come with some appropriate totes or containers or boxes or coolers or whatever it is that you need to put this stuff in quickly and take it home. You're going to get today 2 chickens and 2 whole chickens, 3 pounds of beef bones that are split. Those beef bones are, well, they were frozen yesterday. They're probably still mostly frozen today. I would recommend that you keep them frozen until you're ready to use them, because those are marrow bones and it's fresh marrow on the inside that's exposed. And if they thaw out, you need to cook them pretty much right away. So I'd recommend that you put the bones in the freezer right away. You're also going to get a bunch of mirepoix, carrot, celery, onions. You're going to get thyme, you'll get garlic, parsley, bay leaf, peppercorns. I'm giving you, I made everybody a little packet with Sani tablets in it. So everybody's going to get Sani tabs. I know sanitation right now is a big thing and people are having problems finding all kinds of sanitizers, but I'm going to give you the little blue quat tablets. I'm giving everybody 5 of them to start off with. So everybody hopefully familiar with them and know how to use them, and you have some kind of a small bucket or something that you can use for your sanitation. I really, since we're in this class dealing with raw food, I really want you guys to be very careful with what you're doing and use the sanitation techniques that you learned in Sani and that you've been learning in your other classes. So keep you and your family safe. So that's what you're getting today in your meats and sauces package. Everything in there is going to cover the lessons for the next 2 weeks. So you're basically getting 2 weeks worth of food today for this class. It's the same with my intro to baking class tomorrow. They're getting enough stuff for 2 weeks, but they're getting a huge bin. Butter and flour, oh my gosh, eggs. So please go over that schedule. Make sure that you can be there at scheduled time without hiccups. Be on time. Call Kelly as you're pulling up to let her know that you're pulling in the parking lot so she can get ready. And then she'll bring stuff out, go back inside. You can get out of your car, go get your stuff, load up and go. All right, so I've also been asked about lockers, and lockers is something that we've, it's on our list of things to do. It's just right now, it's not our main priority. Our main priority is to get the classes going and to get you guys some product. So lockers, if you have stuff in your locker at school and you need to access stuff, don't have it. However, if you have a lock on your locker, that's obviously an issue. If it's a combination lock, just send me the combination and I'll unlock your locker and take out whatever it is that you need. If you have a lock that needs a key, we have a couple choices there. We can either have some kind of a key draw-off arrangement, or we can cut the lock off, because we've done that before and we have the capabilities. So for a time frame for this, we don't have one yet. We're really just trying to get through tomorrow. And once we get through tomorrow, we can breathe just a little bit and then say, okay, so what's next on our list? And we'll start working on arrangement for that. To be honest, it's still a little unclear if campus is going to let you guys come on this once a week. They said you can come and get your stuff, but they were talking about the entire campus. Was a very general statement. And we're not sure if there's, well, everybody can come one time and get what they need and go home and take class. And we already made the argument, well, our students, you have to have fresh product on an ongoing basis, especially if you're in Garmager. You guys are going to get a lot of fresh produce. So just keep that in mind. That's nothing definite. That's another one of those questions that's still up in the air, is how much access are they going to allow us to give you guys to come to class. So hoping that the schedule that I've already sent out to everybody is not going to change. The pickup days and the pickup times hopefully are not going to change. We're going to stick to that plan. All right. Questions? Any questions so far? All right.
Question.
So, yes.
What's the phone number to call Kelly to pick up our stuff?
I thought I sent that out to everybody. Let me.
I didn't see it. Maybe you did.
Let's see. All right. So I posted that up in the chat window. Can everybody see that? The number is 707-527-4865.
Can you read that one more time?
Yes, Greg. 707-527-4865.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And just please, Kelly's a little bit frazzled. It's been hard for her as well. So smile when you call her. She needs smiles. She's doing an amazing job then. All right. So let's see. Let's go to Canvas first. I can find it. Here it is. Sorry. My notes here somewhere. There it is. All right. So can everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay, good. So I'm on Canvas. So now remember that I can no longer see your chat window, and I see a few of you in the side window. So if you have any questions, or if I need to go back, please let me know. I know there's a lot going on here. So,
Hey, Chef.
yes. Great.
I can't see it very well, but this is all being recorded, right?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, great.
I have the recording set up automatically on this.
Great.
And so I'm going to be posting this video. Zoom will send me the file a little later on, and then I upload it like I do everything. I'm going to upload it to YouTube, and then I'll post it back into Canvas. I'm also going to take my PowerPoint that I'm about to show you, and I'll save that as a PDF. And that will also be posted in Canvas this afternoon. So hopefully, Greg, do you have a reader?
I do. I have a relative that's going to help reading stuff, but the PowerPoints and everything can be read to me. So.
Right. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Good. So Greg, I'm going to try my best to be very descriptive in my words and what I'm doing. And if I'm not being descriptive enough, please tell me so.
Thank you.
And I'll be more mindful of that. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So here we are. This is what it looks like for me. I'm just going to run down here and so I can do student view so you guys can see what it looks like. And I think everybody at this point has been there and has been looking around, and that's great. So here's the home. We have this little discussion thing that I set up that I think is going to be nice. That as you're doing food, it's just like a little discussion forum. There's really no grading here or anything. This is just for us to kind of say, oh, look what I did. Oh, here's what I did with the chicken that I cut up. I made dinner for my family. I made arroz con pollo, whatever it is. And here's we can share. Since we're not physically in class together and we can't all commiserate and socialize like we usually do, I think this is a good place for maybe do some of that. Announcements. So this is where you have seen I have set my announcements. Just keep in mind that for whatever reason, when you guys respond to something in announcements, I don't get an alert. I get alert for just about everything else that you do on Canvas, but for whatever reason, I don't get an alert when you comment here. So I have to go here and physically look around. So if you have something important that you need to ask me or some question about something that you see here in this announcement section, send me an email and I'll get it right away. I'll get it much faster. I don't want you to think that I'm ignoring anybody. All right. So here's what you guys should be seeing for this week's assessments. So down here, I'll start at the bottom. Has anybody watched this video yet? This is such a great video. This is Julia Child. I don't know when this is, maybe the early to mid 70s. You really have to look past her atrocious sanitation habits. However, it's really packed with all kinds of good information. And she talks about the different and the different size chickens. And actually, a lot of those chickens she talks about, you don't see those chickens in the grocery store, but we still can get them as chefs. All of those chickens she talks about, the roasters, the rooster, the capon, the fryer, the broiler, all of those different chickens I can order from Golden Gate Meats. And it's really, most of the difference between them is age and size. But she does a really nice job of explaining kind of what to look for in a fryer chicken. And I back that up when I do the cutting demo. So we have that. It's always fun to watch Julia. And then I have, this is cutting up the chicken. So here's my demo for cutting up the chicken, and I want you guys to cut up one of your chickens just like this, the 8-way cut. And then once you've documented it and you have your pictures or whatever it is, that's when you would go to here to submit assignment. And then it's going to give you, where'd it go? Oh yeah, there it is. Then it's going to give you all of your regular windows for uploading a file. You'll go to, this is your window. See, this is some of my stuff. So I would, if it was Danish, I could attach the file there. And then you submit assignment. And then I'll be able to see it and see your pictures and all that. So I'm still working out a little bit how I want you guys to score yourself. I know this is pretty obvious, this one, cutting a whole chicken. I can look at it visually and I say, oh yeah, they did a good job with this. Oh, the leg looks a little bad, or they missed the oyster in the back. That's really, can be rather objective. But when we get into sauce work, which we start next week, that's going to be a little bit more subjective because I can't taste anything and I can't smell anything. So we're going to work on that, but you're going to be doing self-assessment very much like we do in the intro to baking class. You're going to do it. I'm going to have a set of criteria for you, and then you're going to score yourself based on those criteria. Is your sauce too thick? Is it like paste? Is it too thin? Does it taste too much like flour? Does it have too much salt? You know, you guys, this issue of self-assessment is really something that we push through all of the classes, because you need to be able to assess your own food. You need to know what to look for. It's a little bit tough here because I can't do a demo and say, here's exactly what to look for. I mean, I can, but you can only see it now. You can't taste it. You can't really, it's hard to tell the texture. You can't smell it. So it's going to be a little bit challenging, but I have faith that we can do it. This whole process is an eye-opener for me. I think that, this is going to be a lot of fun. So the 8-way cut chicken. So that's what you do with one of your chickens. You, other than cutting up that chicken, you're going to save the backs. I'll show you, you know, if you've watched the video, you know, and then you're going to put everything in the stock pot. You're going to use the unused pieces for your stock. With the chicken that you cut up for your 8-way cut, those leftover good pieces, the breast meat and all of that kind of stuff, that's your dinner. Have fun, feed your family. In class, ordinarily what we would do with it is we would cut it up and then we would separate everything and then we bag it all up and we freeze it for cafe to use it. But we don't have cafe, and you're not going to be boxing up your chicken and sending it to me to assess. So yeah, this is your dinner. This is going to be one of the benefits, I think, of doing class like this. So cut this one up, document it, and then the wing tips and the neck. Actually, these don't have necks. They don't have giblets inside of them. And you're going to make the stock, and then for the rest of it, that's dinner. Now, one. The other chicken, you're going to do a boneless cut. I want you to fillet both breasts and both legs, just like I've done in the video. Now, with this chicken, I want you to freeze all these pieces with them. That is going to go in your stock. However, the service pieces that we get out of this, the boneless chicken breast and the boneless leg combination, I want you guys to freeze that, and we're going to use that in a later class. All right. Hopefully you've been cleaning out your freezer. I can't fit any more butter in my refrigerator. It's just out in the garage where it's cold. All right. And then chicken stock. So you're going to cut up your chickens. You're going to make dinner with your first chicken. You're going to freeze the pieces from your second chicken, and with all the bones and the wing tips and everything, you're going to stock. Now, the stock, this is just a quick second video because I talk about you don't let stocks boil, you let them simmer. I did a quick little 30 with a voiceover so you guys can see what a simmer looks like. I also have my ladle there so that I can find on a regular basis. So here's my stock pretty early in the process, and you'll see that I left some of the onion peels on. I only leave on that last onion peel before all the peel is gone. So in other words, the very outside, the real papery part of the onion, I pull that off and throw that away. I really try to minimize the amount of onion peel that I have in there that's like that. But I do include it because it does help give the stock color. It gives it a little bit of a gold tinge. So I leave that there. So here's how I'm handling all this. Again, we're not at the Culinary Center. We don't have all the resources available to us. So I made the decision very early on, I'm going to conduct this class from my home kitchen because that's how you guys are going to be doing this class, is home kitchen. So we have to make some adjustments and find some ways to do some things. So I have a lot of equipment, and I don't assume that you guys have a lot of stuff like that. However, this stock pot that I have, the one you see on the right, is an 11-quart stock pot that I bought at Macy's many years ago. So it's a little over 2 gallons. And then I have my biggest stainless steel bowl and one of my biggest colanders, and I poured it out to strain it. And then since I don't have an ice machine and I don't have a sink that I can dedicate to doing an ice bath, I made my own ice wands. So what these are the gel pack things you can get and you keep. And these are new, and I couldn't get the sticker off very well to get them really, really clean. So what I did is I washed them the best I could, and then I just put them inside of a plastic bag so that my stock didn't have direct contact with those things. So those took the temperature of my stock from 180 degrees to 85 degrees in about an hour, very, very quickly. So we know you have to chill stock from 135 to 70 in 2 hours. You have that window. So I was able to chill my stock well within those time limits. And then I just moved the bowl, just like you see it, the whole thing, to the refrigerator at a space. And then the next morning, all that fat had congealed, and I lift all the fat off. And then I had a nice burst. So this is the result of my stock. And this is about 3 hours worth of work. Putting the stock together and letting it simmer. Canned it. So I do not expect you guys to can stock. That's a whole nother process. It requires a bunch of different equipment, and it's time consuming. So I can do it rather quickly because I do a lot of it. However, if you have the ability, that's the best way to do it. So I want you to make stock, and then you're going to keep how much I'm going to eat 2 quarts of it. So whether you freeze it or you can it, or see, the thing is, if you just put it in your refrigerator and you don't freeze it or can it, it's going to go sour in about a week. And I'm not those assignments until later on this week. I'm not sure when I'll get them to you, but the point here is I want you to save a half gallon of this stock. You're going to make a soup out of a quart of it, and you're going to make 2 different sauces you're going to make a pint of one kind of sauce, and you're going to pint of kind of sauce. You're going to use this stock to do. So the ingredients that I gave you and following the recipe from the book, more or less, I wanted to end up with 2 gallons of stock. I ended up with exactly a gallon. I mean, to the tablespoon, a gallon. So really, that's plentiful. So, but your stock should look like that. It should be a nice, clear, golden color. It shouldn't be black. You should be able to see through it. You see in the bottom of my jars, I have a very minimum amount of any kind of sediment because you will sediment when you make this stuff. All right. So make some stuff, make your house smell good. It does make the house smell good. All fresh herbs. I insisted that you have fresh herbs, so they're sending you everybody a pack of fresh herbs to do this. All right. Yes.
But I'm having some trouble hearing you. The audio is kind of choppy. It's
It's
low.
anyone else?
Yeah, I can't really hear very much for the past 2 minutes or so. So is it
Yeah.
okay if I rejoin real quick?
I just wanted to make sure it was a problem on my end or.
It's I am getting an intermittent signal coming up, sign coming up on my computer that I have unstable internet connection. And I'm imagining that that's kind of system wide. There's a lot of heavy use of the internet and especially Zoom. So it's not surprising me that having a little bit of trouble. But I can be as clear and concise in my demos as I could. But I did want you guys to understand what to do with the different chicken pieces. So if you still have any questions, you can email me and we can chat that way. All right. Go back to this real quick. Okay. All right. So here's the course syllabus, and you can download it just by clicking it right here. It'll download, or you just review it. This little free thing here, you just do that. And then we have our list. Now, modified in this in red. I'm trying as much as possible to keep all the same goals and even assignments as the in-person class. But I have made all these through this kind of quick because we have things to get to. I want you to go back, look at the syllabus carefully, and let me know if you have any questions. I am still working on the grading scheme. However, since everything is going to be in Canvas, and I mean literally everything, when you do assignments and turn in homework, your homework is all going to be automatically graded, and then your assessments will be updated with hours of submission. So you'll know all along exactly where you stand as a percentage of the grade. If you ever at any point during the class have questions about why did you mark me like this or why is showing up, please let me know right away. All right. So required text and materials to every class. So on cooking, it's right there, so I can refer to it. You're going to need that text. A lot of the recipes and that we're going to be doing, I'm going to say, like today, I'm going to ask you to make the stock piece on page 188 in the book. So you'll need the book. And then all of your regular uniform stuff. I'm just like I am in class. I have my pen and my thermometer and my marker. And I also have several rolls of tape stashed around my to keep everything. So knives, hope you have some decent knives at home. I had left my knives at work. Yesterday was my first to go to my office and I brought my knives home. So videos that I have right now are with my home knives that I use, not my work knives. They work fine. So you'll be working from home. Board. Remember to wash it. Hopefully your cutting board not so big that it in your sink, which is really my problems. I have a tiny sink, and my cutting board won't fit in my sink, so I'm having to improvise a little bit with that. Again, I am sending you sanity tabs, so please keep safe and keep everything sanitized and wiped down. Refrigerated space, it's again just like please keep all your wall product on the bottom. And on that thing down to about 7 before putting them in your refrigerator. Like refrigerator doesn't, but other refrigerators have. So keep that in mind. Always try to keep in mind you're going to have space in there for stuff, for sauces, to store stocks, to store product. So that's going to be a challenge.
Hey, Chef, can you repeat that? I couldn't quite hear you.
Yes, Greg, I'm just talking about making sure that you guys keep track of the refrigerated space and be very and keep all your raw stuff on the bottom shelf.
Yeah, of course.
Here's a link course outline of record. We are still following the course outline of record, although the CORs have been temporarily suspended, which means that I'm out to vary from the record. Well, I'm choosing not to. I'm trying to stay as much on that course as possible, just taking it at no team assignment. So this is one of the positive aspects of teaching from home or teaching cooking remotely, is that I'm not going to have anybody coming to me saying, so-and-so's not doing their dishes, or so-and-so's doing knives and boom, or something like that. I kind of smiled when I realized that was going to happen. Everybody here in class, and we all know that the dish room can be when we're working in teams. So I left a lot of that stuff in my syllabus. Again, kind of, or not my syllabus, sorry, PowerPoint, you'll see. Again, kind of mindset, you know, I'll say, okay, when you're going to set up your dish machine, you're going to set up your sanitation, you're going to lay out exactly the same process that you would use at the culinary center, except now your lab is now your try to follow all the steps just as if you were in class. So attendance. So Dr. Chong and the administration, they've told us, because this question came up last week, can we require you, students, this class at this time live online? That question is yes. Again, I know this is a crazy time. I strongly encourage you to come to this class so that there can be interaction and you guys can ask questions. It is really to your advantage to come and attend the live class. So I'm not going to penalize you if you don't. As long as you get all your work done, as long as you stay in consistent communication with me. All right. So the grading system I told you has been suspended, and I'm implementing it kind of almost as we go, to be quite honest. But I'm trying to keep it again as close to what we've had in the past. So I want you to wear your uniform when working on assignments. So again, it's the mindset thing. So we are still going to be doing all of these assessed competencies. All right. So this week you're doing assessment number 1, you're fabricating a chicken and you're making stock. Both. You're doing both of these assessments. Next week, you will also be making stock. Next week is when you're going to make the beef stock. And again, I'm going to have those recipes out a little bit later this week, those assignments out a little bit later this week. So This week is an overview and talk about chickens. And then next week is beef. We get into all the beef cuts and the beef, what a beef side of beef looks like and the processes for that. And then there are in reading assignments, and I already have those written. I just haven't published them on Canvas yet. And then there's no smoking in this class. So I don't know how that works, but okay. So any questions about the syllabus? Everybody knows where to park, right? Okay. Let me get out here. All right. Refill your coffee. Ready to start PowerPoint. Everybody's good? So this is kind of the plan for today. The syllabus review we've already done. Stocks, we'll talk about stocks, the different kinds of stocks that we're going to be doing in this class. Your station setup, we'll talk a little bit about that. And then how to break down a chicken. You'll be making chicken stock. Count and seal chicken parts. So this is what I was talking about. The first chicken, you can use that for your dinner. The second chicken, I want you to pack those fabricated parts, use them for something else. And then at the end of your day, just you clean up. All right, so stocks. So we have stocks and then we have broths. So stocks is a liquid that's been flavored with bones and or meat. So a broth typically doesn't have bones as the background, as the main flavoring agent. Broths usually are from meat trimmings, and broths are much, much lighter. So if you're in the grocery store and you're looking for canned broth or stock, understand there is a difference between stock and broth. Broth is going to be much lighter. Stock is usually a lot more intense. This looks like a pretty good stock they have going there. Of course, that's for a nice picture, but we have the marrow bones right here. And then these look like shallots. Excuse me. And then this is their bouquet garni. So a gloss. That's what this is. That's how it's pronounced. It's a gloss. A gloss is a stock that has been slowly cooked down and reduced to a syrup-like consistency. It has excellent keeping quality, lasts a lot longer than, and they can be frozen. What I like to do to a gloss when it cools, you see this? It gelatinizes when it cools. And you can cut it into pieces, literally cut it into pieces. So when it gelatinizes, I'll cut it into pieces and then freeze it. And then I can bring it out, and it's an addition to a pan sauce. If I'm doing some pan or a New York strip au poivre and I'm making a sauce in a pan, I'll take just a little cube of this gloss and throw it in the pan, and it gives it this great shine and a real depth of flavor. I was the saucier at a private club in Charlotte for I don't know, a while. But this is what I did, is I made all the stocks and all the soups. I did all. I really enjoyed it. I don't know, between this and bacon, those are my two favorite sauces or baking. So a gloss is really, think of it as a super reduced stock. You've reduced it down so far that all the natural juices are congealing, and it has its own natural thickening powers. So a gloss is actually reduced further than a demi-glace. You might use a gloss when you're making your demi-glace. So demi-glace is also actually reduced, but we'll get to that in a sec. So we like to add it to things. You know, there are commercial products, the better than bouillon and all that kind of stuff that you can buy in the grocery store. And that's what they're trying to replicate, are these concentrated flavor glosses. So Glace de Viande and demi-glace are common examples of the use of a gloss. Then we have what's called an essence. And an essence isn't really a true stock because there's no bones in it. Sometimes I like to joke around and say, well, it's the bones of the carrots or it's the bones of the vegetables that we're doing. But an essence is really made from fruits or vegetables. And an essence is going to be different than, let's say, a coulis or a puree or a ragu, which are all also made from vegetables. But an essence is more like what we would call a vegetable stock. It's going to be a thin, flavorful liquid, like a chicken stock, but made with vegetables. So commercial bases. This is how I spent almost the first 10 years of my career working in the restaurant called Providence Cafe. And we had such a menu and we had such a kitchen that we didn't do our own stock making. We just really weren't set up for it. So we used actually these products down here are made by a company called Miners, and they're out of Jersey. They are owned by Nestle, and they make some really good flavor bases. They make a vegetarian-friendly bacon flavor base. It tastes just like bacon, but there's no bacon in it. So those products are available. The downside to those products is, especially the ones that are shelf stable, there's this one is shelf stable. These are also shelf stable. They have a lot of salt in them. So salt is the preservation method for these commercial bases. So if you look at the ingredients on the back, the number one ingredient very often is salt, followed by sugar. And in the case of chicken base, it'll be the third ingredient will be chicken fat, and then chicken pieces, and then it goes from there. These commercial bases, they work. It's better than nothing. When I was on the ships, we used the powdered ones, the North Swiss, and they just treated it like salt and pepper. They just kind of sprinkled it on everything. And I'm like, well, those beans are supposed to be vegetarian. Oh, well, this is just powder. I'm like, you don't understand. So anyway, try to avoid those if you can, but those things are out there. We don't use those in the culinary center at all. These will not thicken if you reduce them. You're going to have to put a roux or some kind of other thickening agent in them to get them to be thick. If you just reduce them, you end up back up with the vegetable base, the paste. And the flavor can be improved if you put a mirepoix and some fresh herbs in there to boost it up. And that's exactly what I would train them to do on the ships. We'd make up a big, like a 2-gallon pot of stock from these soups. And then we'd go from there. We'd put all kinds of fresh stuff in them, and they would work quite well. You're likely not going to use these in a restaurant around here, like a family-owned restaurant. However, if you go into, let's say you're going to institutional food service and you're going to be feeding people either in hospitals or in care facilities, you may use some of these products. All right, stock types. So we have all these different kinds of stocks, and we're going to be doing all these different stocks in this class. So we have the essence or the vegetable stock, And this is also known as a court bouillon or nage. That's how you say that word, N-A-G-E, it's nage. So then we have brown stocks or estouffade in French. We have white stocks, and white stocks, even though they say they're white, it includes chicken stock, which is really gold or yellow, and it includes pork stock, which is pink. And then we have fish and maize. Then called a jus or a jus. So J-U-S is pronounced jus, and L-I-E is lié. So it's julier. And the difference in julier, a jus is just the natural juices that have come out of a roast that are in a pan. So if you do a big, let's say you do a big prime rib roast, all of those juices that drip down into the pan, we call that the jus or the au jus. We say it's au jus, which means that steak is served with its own natural juices. It's served au jus. Julier is when we take the same juices and we thicken them ever so slightly. We don't thicken them to the point where it's an actual brown sauce, but we do thicken it ever so slightly so it just kind of clings to the meat a little bit and gives everything a nice shine. So that's the difference between a jus and a julier. A jus, no thickening at all. Julier, slightly thickened. So vegetable stocks, I love this. A vegetable stock is often as a court bouillon or a nage. So vegetable stocks are very light in flavor if they're done correctly. They have a beautiful color, they're very transparent, and have a very nice light flavor and aroma. And that's what we're going for. We use, especially we'll call it a court bouillon when we're using it as a poaching liquid. We commonly use a court bouillons when we're poaching fish. That's one of the most common things that we use a court bouillon for, although you can use it for other things. If the vegetables are strained out, it's a court bouillon. If it's served like you see in this picture, that is poached salmon a la nage. So we're serving the salmon with some of the poaching liquid and the vegetables that are in that poaching liquid. So that is when it is become nage, N-A-G-E. So strain out the vegetables, it's a court bouillon, serve it on the plate with the vegetables, now it's a nage. All right, so then we have brown stocks or estouffade. And they're made from chicken, beef, veal, or game bones. But what makes them brown is that they've been roasted. So you can have a brown stock that is a chicken stock, but what you would do is you would take those chicken bones and you would roast those chicken bones in a hot oven with carrots and onions. Not celery, but carrots and onions. We'll talk about celery in a minute. So even in this picture with the beef bones, you see up here, they have the celery in here that they've roasted. I'm gonna ask you not to do that, and I'll tell you why in just a second. We do all of our roasting only with carrots and onions. So we'll roast the bones. The bones that you have look a lot like this bone right here. They're kind of short and they're split open lengthwise to expose all the marrow. And that marrow is like fat. So once you roast it, avoid the temptation to eat all the marrow out of the bones. To me, it's like meat butter. It's really delicious. And there's some restaurants will serve a marrow bone as an appetizer. And that's one of I love those things. However, all that marrow in there gives you a lot of gelatin. And that is really what gives your stock good texture, especially when you're doing a beef stock. there is nothing like a real demi-glace. And it's really so hard to find a true demi-glace that is done in this method. Most places that serve what they call a demi, they've taken shortcuts or they've used one of the flavor bases to enhance. But to have a real one is just you roll your eyes and take a deep breath and you go, oh yeah, that tastes good. And you can even see it on the plate. A real demi has a different look than than any other sauce. So white stocks are made from beef, veal, or chicken or game. The mirepoix is used and nothing is roasted in advance. So we do make, we won't in this class, but in the restaurant, we make white veal stocks. And white veal stocks have a lot of collagen in them. They're very high in protein. They're very easily digested. And they have good nutritional value. And we use them to help add body to an otherwise lackluster stock. If we add the white veal stock to, let's say, a brown stock, and then we reduce all down by half, that stock will now take on a different consistency. And it'll be smoother and it'll look better. So we do make white veal stocks, occasionally white beef stocks, although very rarely. Mostly we'll make white stocks out of pork bones and chicken bones. And that's a good looking stock. All right, so fish stocks. This gets a little tricky with fish stocks. Fish stocks and fumets, and a fumet is it's like a fish stock, but it has a lot of acid in it, like a white wine or lemon juice or something like that. Both the stocks and fumets are made by slowly cooking fish bones or shells with vegetables for short duration. So you can't just use any kind of fish. Really oily fish, I think I have it here. Let's see. I do have it somewhere. A really oily fish like salmon makes a terrible stock. Tuna makes a terrible stock. So you want a white flesh fish. Haddock works well. Perch, flounder bones, although they're very delicate. Again, you're going to get a very, very light stock. Snapper works well. And then, of course, we make stocks out of shrimp shells frequently, lobster shells as well. All right, so mirepoix. Hopefully you guys are already familiar with a mirepoix from your Knife Skills class. So just as a review, a mirepoix is a mix of vegetables, and it's usually carrot, celery, and onion. And it's usually 50% onions and 25% carrots, 25% celery. You guys are getting in your box a whole bunch of, I said, just send them like 5 pounds of onions, 5 pounds of carrots. You're getting a whole bunch of stuff. I weighed everything when I did my stock, and I can tell you that I'm asking you to do 2 pounds of mirepoix with the 2 chicken carcasses that you have. And 2 pounds of mirepoix was 1 big onion, 1 smaller onion, and that was a pound of onion. And then I had 1 really big carrot that was 8 ounces, and then 3 stalks of celery. And that was 2 pounds of mirepoix. So that's like, again, 1 big onion, 1 small onion, a really big carrot, and 3 stalks of celery. And that works well. The cut, again, you should already understand that the longer you cook something, the bigger the cut needs to be. So if we're doing a chicken stock, your cut really should be about a medium dice size or a 1/2 inch size. And if you're doing beef stock, which will cook for a very long time, 12 hours, you need to have much bigger pieces. Always your ingredients. I don't always wash my carrots. Peel my carrots. I always wash them, but I don't always peel them. It depends on what they look like. If they're a little rough, I might peel them, but it's not 100% necessary. So on the left-hand side there, you see, and now this is what's talking about celery. Maybe you already read this. But all the classic recipes, when it calls for celery, we're really talking about celeriac or celery root. And the thing is, celery stalks like we have now that we're used to seeing, they're very high in water and they don't really roast very well. So when you put them in a very hot oven to roast them, what they do is they just release a lot of water and a lot of steam. And we're trying to avoid water and steam because we want to develop a nice brown color. So don't add celery when we're roasting things. Celery, again, just doesn't roast up very well. And avoid the temptation. Let's say you are out of celery and you say, oh, well, I'll just double the carrots in my mirepoix. Now you have onions and carrots. And what happens is now you have two vegetables that they both have a high degree of natural sugars that come out when they're cooked. So if your stock is lopsided with too much onion and too much carrot, and carrot especially, you'll end up with a sweet stock. I mean, you'll taste it and you're going, I didn't put any sugar in this. Why is it so sweet? It tastes just like you put sugar in it. And it's from the vegetables. So be aware of that. And that's why sometimes we will put an acidic product in our final sauce to kind of counteract any sweetness that was developed when we were making the sauce. All right. Seasonings. So for stocks, your primary seasonings are whole black pepper, fresh thyme, bay leaves, parsley stems, and occasionally garlic. We talk about this in Nice Skills class, either a sachet or a bouquet garni. So this is a bouquet right here where they've taken the fresh herbs and they literally tie them up like a bundle of flowers, like a bouquet of flowers. And then the sachet is enclosed. So in other words, it's in a little package. It's either in a cheesecloth package or you can use like the little balls that you make tea in. And sachets, we use sachets when we have a lot of dried spices and a lot of little things. And we use the bouquets mostly for big fresh herbs like parsley, thyme, and leeks. In my stock, what I did, I didn't do either one. I knew I was going to be straining everything out at the end. It's a really rather small stock that I'm making. So I just threw everything in there and then let it go. And you can see that from the pictures. I don't have anything tied, there's nothing enclosed, and that's just fine. I didn't stir it, not even once during the whole cooking time. I did, however, come back and skim a lot. This is important. Right here. We don't add salt to a stock, ever. The stock is one of our ingredients. The stock is very rarely the end product of what we're trying to do. We make a stock so we can use it in other things. We can use it in soups, we can use it in different sauces, we can use it in different ways. So we don't know exactly what our end use is going to be when we make our stock. So if you put salt in it and get it to have a balanced flavor, and you end up reducing it, or you are putting cheese in it or something else like that, it's going to end up being too salty. So no salt in the stock. So veal and beef bones. This right here is a really great example of a marrow bone. And they might roast this and they would serve that to you in a restaurant with a nice, like a Syrah, something really a deep red wine. The pieces that you guys have look just like this, except they're cut much shorter. They're not these long bones. So this is what you guys are going to be using for your beef stock. So move this out. The best bones for beef and veal come from younger animals. However, a lot of these bones, they're coming from older animals and sometimes retired dairy cows. So we can't always be choosy. We are very lucky that we buy everything from Golden Gate Meats. So they do a lot of their own processing there. So they know what we want. So when I order beef bones for stock, they send me the right thing. Too often, you might go to a butcher and they'll send you a knuckle of the leg or of a hoof or close to the hoof, bottom of the leg. And it's this piece here, but not split. And that's, we don't like those. Modern processes, when they take these animals in and they remove the meat from them, see how clean that bone is? That's what the bones look like. I mean, they get every little teeny piece off of the bones. So that as a chef, when you order bones, and if you don't have a good purveyor, they're going to send you these bones that are stripped clean of everything, and they really don't make a good stock. However, again, we have a good purveyor and they give us good bones. So, this is one of my favorite slides. Chicken bones. The best bones for chicken stock are the back and the neck. Wingtips and feet also offer a great deal of collagen, but they don't offer a whole lot of flavor. So, Chef Michael, when he was running cafe, he had a soup that he liked to do, but he would bring in a whole case of chicken feet, and he made a chicken foot stock. And I'm telling you, that stock, once it was made and cooled, had so much collagen in it, you could probably walk across it. It was very, very firm when it was cold. But chicken feet will do that, and the wingtips also have a whole lot of collagen in them. So I'm not a fan necessarily of the all chicken foot stock. It has its place. He used it in a very specific way, and it worked for what he needed. That's actually what he needed to do. But most oftentimes you're going to use just the backs. And the chickens that I get you guys from Golden Gate Meats are called wogs, which means they're without giblets. So it's not going to be like the grocery store chicken where you pull a little bag out of the inside. All of your chickens don't look like that, and they don't have the giblets. All right, here it is. Use only bones from lean cuts of fish. Fish such as salmon and tuna have high fat contents and make poor, cloudy stocks. Use only fresh fish, and all internal organs are gone, and rinse it well. And try to not put the skins in there because there's a lot of oil in the skin. I will tell you that I one time I did make a salmon stock for a special dinner, but I clarified it. I made a consomme out of it, and in that process, and I got all the cloudiness out of it. But that's a little advanced. We do consommes in this class when we are at the Culinary Center, although I don't think I'm going to do them here because they're really very complex. So I will talk about them though. Other bones. Lamb, turkey, game, ham bones can be used in white or brown stocks, but use caution when you're doing lamb or goat. They can really overtake a stock, and especially goat. It really, I'm not a fan of the way it smells when cooking when you're making a goat stock, but it's a very, very dominant flavor. If I do a goat stew, I commonly will use a beef stock as the background for a goat stew. I won't make a goat stock. All right, best practice, do's and don'ts. Always start with cold water. Always, always, always. Don't fill your pot up with hot water. What happens with hot water is immediately any proteins that have dissolved in the water, they coagulate and they get into big pieces, and then they don't want to rise to the surface where we can skim them off. They stay suspended in the water, and that's what makes your stock cloudy. So it's cold water with the chicken. What I did is I put the chickens in my pot, I covered them with cold water, and I poured that water off. And then I refilled it with fresh cold water, so I could rinse off any excess blood or anything that was there. So start with cold water, then I put everything in there, all my my mirepoix and all my seasonings, and then I just turn it on to about medium, and I let it come up to a simmer over about a 30-minute period of time. I didn't take it up really fast. I just kind of brought it up kind of slowly, so I can really control the temperature very well. So if you have to add liquid, you know, you've been cooking your stock so long and some of it has reduced down, add cold water back into it. Don't let it boil. Try not to ever let a stock boil. Again, it's kind of the same thing. Boiling it causes all those proteins to coagulate in large clumps, and they don't rise to the top. And skim frequently. So this stock right here, I intentionally chose this picture because this stock is to be skimmed. At the beginning of your cooking, you'll see all this foam right here, and this foam is kind of a brown or off-white color. You need to skim all of that. Take all of that off. I have a little skimmer, a little wire mesh skimmer that I can use to lift it up. Or actually, my favorite way is just to use a ladle to very gently skim off that foam off the top and just discard it. This is also known as, you see the word down there, it's dépoulage. That's the word. So if you're working somewhere and Chef Roger is yelling at you, the stock needs dépoulage, you know, oh yes, chef. And you go over there and you strain the chef. Strain the chef. You strain the stock. Strain the chef later. So you strain the stock. That is skim the stock. I'll get it right in a minute. So that's dépoulage, skimming. And we do that on a regular basis, especially with beef stock. The fat comes up and it's like this yellow film that it will go across the top of the beef stock. Strain it carefully. So here they're straining. This is actually a shrimp stock that they're straining. I think they're going a little overboard with the straining. You saw the pictures that I showed you, how I strained mine, and I just did mine with a simple colander. I didn't go through all this with the cheesecloth and everything else, and still my stock came out really nice and clear with very little sediment in the bottom. So I wouldn't go to all of this trouble making your first stock. Make your first stock, see how it goes, see how much stuff you have in there. And then if you do have sediment after you strain it, sorry, it's always easy enough to go back and strain it again through some cheesecloth if you feel like you need to. So we want to cool it as fast as we can. And putting it into plastic is not a good way to cool it because plastic does not conduct the heat very well. So plastic is actually an insulator. So if you pour it from the stock pot directly into plastic, even if it's a Cambro while it's still hot, the nature of the plastic is going to want to make it hold that heat, and you're going to have a harder time getting it cool quickly. So either strain it into a big bowl like I did, or you can strain it into another pot, but don't put it in anything plastic until you've got the temperature down. So use an ice bath or an ice wand, and you saw how I made my own little ice wands from my little gel packs. And then store it in the refrigerator up to a week and freeze if longer if you need to. After you cool it, the next morning is the best time to take the fat off, because all the fat would have risen to the top, it's all congealed, and it lifts off really quite easily. Now, if you're fanatical, you save that fat. You'll save all the fat from your chicken. When you cut up your chicken, you render that down, you save all the fat from your stocks, and you put that with the other fat. And that makes the best roux you've ever tasted in your life. But it's a lot of work. All right, so to blanch or not to blanch, and this is something, if you've been watching videos or if you've been reading about stock making, depending on whose book you're reading, they'll tell you to blanch or not to blanch. In blanching, I was taught to blanch beef bones, but not to blanch poultry, because poultry bones are porous and we lose too much when we blanch them. So beef bones, I was taught to blanch. I stopped blanching beef bones about 20 years ago, though. I take East Coffier's way of doing it, and the only thing he blanches when making stock is he adds pork skin to his stock to give it texture, and that's something that has kind of been lost. We really don't do that anymore. So I think, to me, blanching is an extra step that's unnecessary. And especially if you're going to make a brown stock, it doesn't make sense to me to blanch the bones and then dry them off and then roast them, because they're not going to roast if they're wet. So anyway, just you guys be aware that chefs don't always agree on blanch or not blanch. Chef Jim, I don't blanch. Okay, so improving stocks. So double or triple stocks. These stocks follow the same procedures, but substitute a previously made stock instead of water. So if you want a double strength chicken stock, you'll make your chicken stock with 2 chicken carcasses, strain it, cool it, and then the next day you get 2 new chicken carcasses and you start a new stock. But instead of putting water in there, you put your cold stock from the day before. And that is what's called a double stock. So this next one, a remoulage, this is what I'm going to have you guys do with the beef stock. So a remoulage, and I always do this. This is one of my standard procedures when I'm making beef stock. I make a remoulage. So a remoulage is just simply, you roast your bones, you roast your mirepoix, then you add everything and you make your stock and you strain it off. You don't throw anything away. You have your stock in one place, and then you have all your mirepoix and all your bones and everything still in the pot. So you refill the pot with cold water right on top of the old bones and the old mirepoix and everything. And then you let that cook another 6 or 7 hours. And that's your remoulage, or what's called a second wetting, W-E-T-T-I-N-G, a second wetting. You get it wet again. We don't really change anything. We just put fresh water in there, and then we recook it to get every little bit out. Then what I'll do on day 3 is I take my original stock and I take my remoulage and I combine them. And then I reduce them by half. And now I have a really good, strong, rich beef stock. Caramelizing ingredients, color and flavor is enhanced by caramelizing ingredients. this also results in a clearer stock. So caramelized onions mean caramelized carrots. Don't caramelize garlic, and we've already talked about celery. Garlic, it's too easy to go a little bit too far with the garlic, and then we get bitter notes. So with garlic, I might roast garlic, you know, wrap it in aluminum foil, roast it as a whole head like that, and then put roasted in garlic in like that, but I won't roast cloves. I won't caramelize cloves because it's too easy to burn them. And then add gelatinous cuts. A split veal foot or a blanched pork rind serve this purpose. This helps give the stock texture. You can order the split veal foots. You can also order split pig's feet, and those work as well. Except where I'm from, we like to eat them. We don't put pig's feet in stocks. What a waste. We're going to eat those things. Trotters. All right. So today, when we go into the lab, this is what we're doing. Clean out your refrigerator and discard any dead food. Reach into the back. Find that old meatloaf from last January and throw it away. You need the space. Set up your sanitation in your work area. You know, it took me like a half a day almost to go through my kitchen and really get my kitchen ready to do all this. I moved stuff around and I moved stuff into other rooms to give myself some elbow room and some space to work. I learned when I was working for the Navy, you can do an amazing amount of work in a very small space if you're well organized. So break everything down into tasks, move from one task to another. Remember that you might have space above you or below you, not just beside you, where you can put things. Always keep track of your times. You know, how long has this chicken been out? We can't leave the chicken out for more than 4 hours. So pay attention to all those things. So I want you to break down the chickens into a standard 8-way cut. You're going to remove the wing tips and trim all the excess fat. And you save the wing tips and the backs for your stock. And remember, that chicken, those 8 pieces that you've cut up, that's dinner.
Chef, I have a question.
Yes.
In page 188, it says deep frying. Doesn't say white stock.
On page what?
188, it says deep frying. Oh, I have the new edition. Oh, okay.
That's what my
Okay.
page 188 looks like.
That's another book.
Yeah. See, I had that book and it's disappeared. We can't find it. None of the other instructors have it, and I can't find it. So I'm using my old edition. Those recipes will still be in there. They're just on a different page. I'm sorry. It's going to be listed as white stock. You see it?
Chef. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So if you're looking at that recipe, let's take a quick look at that recipe. So I kind of laughed at this recipe when I first saw it, because they're asking you to make 2 gallons of chicken stock, but they're asking you to use 15 pounds of chicken bones. You don't have 15 pounds of chicken bones. You have 2 chicken carcasses, and it's plenty. I followed the rest of this recipe, but cut it down to 2 gallons. So in other words, this one calls for 3 gallons of water. I used 2 gallons of water. And then I cut the rest of the recipe by 1/3, except for the bones, which is what you have. You have 2 carcasses. But like I said, I had 2 chicken carcasses, 1 big onion, 1 small onion, 1 giant carrot, and 3 stalks of celery. That was my mirepoix for my stock. And then I also want you to do the boneless, to fabricate one of those chickens and take the bones out of the breast, take the bones out of the leg quarters, and you're going to wrap those and freeze them and save them for next week. So next week we have butcher practices, beef muscle group identification and fabrication in brown stock. So we'll be talking about a beef carcass and what we call primals and fabricated cuts and subprimals. There's a lot of information there. So go ahead and read about that so that you're maybe have some questions when we talk about beef next week.
Hey, Chef.
Yes.
So are we caramelizing the carrots and onions before we add it to the stock?
For which stock, Greg?
For the stock?
For which stock, Greg?
For the whole carcass. For the chicken stock. For chicken stock.
No, sir. I want you to follow the recipe on 188, or depending on the edition that you have. That is a white stock. We're not roasting the bones for this one.
Oh, gotcha. Is there another one we're roasting?
Yes, next week.
Next week, okay.
Yes, we're going to do beef next week, and we will be roasting those bones next week. However, this is a white stock, so you're literally just throwing everything in the pot and letting it simmer.
Okay.
All right. So here's your homework. Read chapter 13 and on cooking beef. And Sharon, if it's the new edition, I'm not sure what chapter it is, but it's the chapter on beef. There will be a quiz. That quiz I will post up immediately after class next week. You'll have to go on and take the quiz. And a quiz is timed. And a quiz, I do limit the amount of times that you can attempt the quiz. So I'll give you plenty of time to do it. It's not a long quiz. It's just, I just want to make sure that you've read the chapter. That's really what it is. And then define the terms listed on page 219 under 2 terms to know. And again, Sharon, it might be a different page for you, but it's at the end of the chapter. So I want you to type those up. And then I created a link on Canvas where you can submit it. And that's going to be under assignments. And I'll list it under assignments as terms to know. Thanks, Alyssa. Alyssa says white stock is on page 207 in the new book. Does anybody have any questions? No? Okay. So what are you going to do today? Make chicken stock? Cook chicken for dinner? Yeah. I see some heads doing this. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Well, very good. So we made it through the first class. So, you know, I know this feels a little shorter than the meats and sauces class, but it's really not, because if this was the meats and sauces class, this is the point where I would say, okay, so everybody get up and you go into the lab and set up your stations and let's start cutting chickens. So I think you have the rest of the day kind of laid out for you for this class. Everybody have fun. I'm going to be around in my house today. I'm going to be working on, I have intro to baking tomorrow. I'm still working on that. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me, and we can even do office hours if you like, and we can do a personal one-on-one video if needed. So thank you guys. This has been a great day. I'm so glad that everybody on the literally everybody on the roster is here, which is great. I love that. And we're all here, and this is going to be a lot of fun. So have a good day, and I'll see you next Tuesday. All right?
Thank
Thanks.
you, Chef.
Thank you, Chef.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Chef. Bye.
Thank you, Chef.